and welcome to a very dark and stormy El Nino version of Wake and Bake News. And how are you this morning? Here in California, we're having some excitement. The first wave of major storms to hit California for El Nino is starting to strike. And along with it, apparently, the top of a palm tree into my mother in law's house last night. So Kurt's gone over there to make sure Nan is okay. I guess it just scraped the house. It doesn't surprise me because I've spent like the last year watching the cute little woodpeckers working the bark. Because there's two palm trees right out the back. Okay, like two palm trees, big palm trees. If I'm thinking those are the ones that broke. And there have been two woodpeckers just working the whole trunk of the tree, like about 15, 20 feet off the ground. And they sure are cute to watch. But apparently the wind and everything blew the palm tree. If it's the one I'm thinking of. If it's one of the other palm trees, then it's the neighbor, and that's gonna suck because, uh, hopefully his insurance will be okay, and everything. Our insurance, hopefully it's not a lot of damage or anything. So he just went over to check on that. He was getting ready to go over there while I did my show, and then he heard about this and he was like, "Oh, I better go over there and check that out." She's like, "Oh, a palm tree fell. You have to come over." Okay, so I got some stories lined up, not as many, but good ones, interesting ones. Okay. But the first thing I want to talk about is kind of a sneak a toke because I couldn't exactly find the story support this idea, but I just want to throw it out to the universe and see what the stoner community thinks of this. Bad hair day, fuzzy. Bad moisture hair day. Okay. So here's my sneak a toke concept idea. And that is that apparently in the last 4 years, 193 cities have banned dispensaries in California. And especially with this new legislature that's coming out of, Sacramento, there was a mistype or a misprint in the original version of it, which gave a false sense that there was some kind of deadline for cities to come up with ordinances for medical marijuana. So they all, of course, banned it. But they basically reinstated many of the bans they already had. Okay. So here was my idea. Since we know what cities they are, and Normal has maps of some of the localities in California and their bust records from like the 1990s, and I'll show you an image here of that. Okay, so taking a look at that map from the 1990s, let me put it up on my screen so I can see it. It's in my files. I couldn't read online what all the different localities were, but I'll bet you that I'll bet dollars to ducats that they're going to be the same places that are putting up these medical marijuana dispensary bans right now, right? So I bet you there's an opportunity here to compare and contrast. Hey, Tiki, do you want to come out? Huh? Want to come out? Maybe there's a chance to compare and contrast these maps and see if maybe these are the exact same places. I'll bet you they are. So, in other words, is it really medical marijuana that they're banning, or is it something more like poor people, people of color? Is that they're trying to keep their institutionalized racism, is what they're trying to do, maybe. I think that we found a way to take apart some of the tinker blocks in their institutionalized racism, and this is their reaction to that. And if that's true, then there's an opportunity for us to overlay those maps and see if it's the same. So I was thinking probably Normal or somebody would have that kind of ability. I'm still not looking in my file. I'm talking. Ah, there it is. Because I just added it to this folder. There. Waiting for it to pop up. And of course, I'm still Dankrupt today, and the Toasted Gentleman was so kind to think of me yesterday. That was very nice. I really appreciated that. He's like, I hope you're not going to be bankrupt for long. And it's like, it's okay. I had a lot of weed during the holiday. It was wonderful. It's like a bacchanalia. Um, so I'm happy to bring down my tolerance so I can afford. I don't need to keep up the same kind of level of marijuana because it's expensive. That's part of the problem with having dispensaries blocked in your town is it increases the price of your medication quite a bit. So you end up having to go to local growers, or the black market actually forces normal people like me into the black market. So Ventura is one of these cities that's doing this. That you can see that on the map. It says here that, okay, this is a marijuana arrest from 1997, California, right? And it says here in 97, Ventura arrested between 169 to 240 people for marijuana, and Santa Barbara was even higher. Los Angeles, Orange, and San Diego. And I know for sure that San Diego and Ventura have banned dispensaries. Santa Barbara has 2. I'm supposed to drive 40 miles to fucking go to and deal with their stupid, idiotic city that is in a Spanish style. So it's meandering and you have one-way streets and then you have to pay for parking. You ever go to, you haven't experienced life till you go to Santa Barbara and sit in a line so you can get in a parking structure. Oh my God, it's delightful. I mean, it's wonderful. Thank you for that experience there, Ventura. Oh yeah, I just look forward to doing that. Let's see, San Luis Obispo, Kern, Tulare, San Bernardino, Riverside. These were 104 to 169 because they're in light blue. So the purple is really the where it starts to get heavily regulated, or where the arrests were heavily conducted, but even more so up in the Emerald Triangle and near, hey, why are you doing that, man? I don't treat you like that. Do I interrupt you? No. So anyway, yeah. Oh, we got to do something about him. He's going to be a pill. Let me go. He can go fly freely in my bedroom. I can't catch him. Shouldn't have let him out. You better behave. Okay, he knows. A bird rules my home. This is once again a warning from Wake and Bake News. Please think twice when deciding to buy a cockatiel as a pet. We adopted this one from someone who got rid of it, and he's a sweetie. Tiki's a sweetie, but he's also a monster and a bully, and he wants to have the last word. Very difficult to live with. Gentlemen. Okay, let's see. So we were also looking at this map. It looks like the heavily green areas, like Trinity and Shasta and stuff like that, Humboldt, is obviously because that's where the growers were. So that's where the federal government was coming in with major busts and stuff like that. Why does it have the Channel Islands in light green? There were marijuana busts on the Channel Islands? The Channel Islands are like the size of a large football stadium. What? Channel Islands are basically just a couple of tops of mountains that are sitting out in the ocean. That's all that is. It's not like an island, like Hawaii or something. Why would that be green? That's weird. Okay, so I was wondering if maybe if you took this map and you overlaid it with some of the locations like Ventura and, of course, San Diego and stuff where you've seen news out of there that they're banning all these dispensaries. Is it dispensaries they're banning, or are they trying to find a way to maintain their institutionalized racist system to try to keep poor and minority people down with marijuana busts and trying to prevent people like me, normal people, from being able to get medical marijuana, because the more people like me that do it, the less they'll be able to bust everybody of color and stuff, because we're doing exactly the same thing and you can totally see it. It helps to, reinforce their bullshit about how all medical marijuana is just a way to get marijuana legalized for a bunch of drug addicts. You see what that is? This is the way they've maintained their ability to go after people for open container or for smoking in public or homeless people smoking marijuana, and also preventing dispensaries from coming in and then complaining, saying, because I've heard the policeman in, it was like in the council meeting for the first banning of marijuana, because we were there, he said that really they can't afford to police all the bars and marijuana. That's basically what he was saying. They could not enforce doing both because they were so limited, right? So if you're so limited doing that, then how the hell are you going to enforce this ban on dispensaries? Obviously you can't, because there's deliveries all over the place. It would be practically impossible to stop the deliveries, I think. You know, what are you going to stop the car? You know, check every car that comes into your little city or whatever. So that was my sneak a toke, just an idea I had thinking about these bans and seeing this old map from the arrests in 97. And I thought, I bet there's a way to compare and contrast these things to see what the real motives are behind this stuff. Because I doubt very much it has anything to do with public safety or, whether marijuana is medicine or not, or any of these stupid things. Probably it's just in order to harass people, keep them in their place, keep them down on their knees, Usually that kind of thing is what's going on. Okay, the next story I'm going to go to is un-marijuana related, but I thought was fascinating. I saw a very interesting analysis, which I will post, of Donald Trump's, how he answers a question. This is about Donald Trump. It's not about Donald Trump. I don't care about him. He's not going to be president. He's weird. And if he is president, that's going to be fucking hilarious. I will laugh my ass off because we will become hucksters. That's all you'll hear is huckstering. Okay, so, and I doubt very much it would last very long, and he'd probably end up assassinated, and if vice president, whoever that would be, would end up president pretty damn quick. Okay, so I just see that as just being a wholly monstrous event, but it would be hilarious in the history books. I certainly would enjoy seeing it. If it did happen, I would just sit back and eat popcorn and laugh. But really what's going on here is something that has been going on in this country forever, and that is tricking the rubes. It's an age-old custom, and I'm about to reveal it to you. Okay, there is a very famous movie that our good friend Andy Griffith, remember Andy Griffith and the Andy Griffith Show, remember that? Okay, the Andy Griffith Show, and how cool Andy Griffith was, and upstanding, and white bread and all this kind of stuff. Well, he played a character in a movie, all right, called A Face in the Crowd, and he played a character called Lonesome Rhodes, and highly recommend that you find this movie and go watch it, because that is Donald Trump. That is exactly Donald Trump. He is doing exactly what Lonesome Rhodes did. And Lonesome Rhodes in the movie explains how he plays the suckers, the rubes, the pea pickers, everybody that's got to jump when somebody blows a whistle. They're all mine. I got them all. They don't know it yet, but they're going to do exactly what I say. And that's who Donald Trump goes after. The housefrows, the pea pickers, everybody that's got to jump when somebody blows a whistle. Everybody that's got it out for the government, right? Okay, so here I'm going to link to a story that actually makes a very interesting comparison between Lonesome Rhodes and Donald Trump. It says this is actually the closest human incarnation of that character we've come up against so far. And when you compare this to the example of Lonesome Rhodes, what was going on at the time, which is this radio huckstering, and how they were able to actually reach into politics. They became so popular on radio as personalities that they could actually begin to turn that popularity over into a political overreach, and that's what Lonesome Rhodes does here. He doesn't go for the presidency, but he wants to be one of the powers behind the throne and have a cabinet position that's explicitly created just for him, kind of like drug czar or something like that. Okay, so I'm not going to read the story for you because you can just watch the movie and it just tells the tale. Okay. And it pretty much is probably going to show what is going to happen to Donald Trump. Also, if you check out the analysis of how he speaks, okay, I had a similar experience because I applied for a job as a young person that I found in the newspaper that said rock and roll atmosphere. Of course, I had to go apply for that, right? And I showed up at a place and they say, okay, here's a script. Basically, what we do is we sell radio parts and speakers and stuff and amplifiers for your car out of the trunk of your car. And you will go to construction sites and local business places where people are working outdoor, call them over to your car and sell this stuff out of the back. And you can jack up the price as much as they're willing to pay and keep the profit, just as long as you sell the merchandise and give us, flat out pay for, kind of like Amway or something, flat out pay for what it is you're getting. So you're not paying for it as you take it out. You sign it out. Then you drive around. You sell it as though it's stolen merchandise, and you try to act like this is a bargain, but get yourself, some kind of like a commission out of it, and then return home with the booty, and you get to keep the over, mark, and they get their money back for the merchandise that you sold. So at the end, I came in and I asked in the back of the room, this was my first day. I raised my little hand because they were having like a debriefing for everybody at the end and finding out what locations they should hit the next day and what was hot. And I said, is this illegal? And he says, oh, yeah, but we bail you out the first time. And I went, well, thank you very much, but I don't think I need this job. But they had a script. And the script went like this. It was something like how you get people to say yes, okay? And what you do is, and I also worked for telemarketing once when I was pregnant. I needed a job, and that was in a hotel. It was a million tables shoved into a hotel somewhere with all these poor women making phone calls, and there's like a guy with a whip there. I don't hear you talking. You must. This is like in the 80s, right? In like 1988. Okay, so I've been in these experiences before. They have a script, and the script is there to psychologically, even though it sounds rambly and everything, like my speech, it's purposeful. That actually, if you look at what Trump does, he lands on the words that he wants you to remember, all right, at the end of his sentences. But everything before is get, but, half set, partial, run through this part and that. Bam, with the word. Bam, with the words you want to sell. Bam, with the words you want to sell, right? Well, in my experience, we had scripts that would get you to buy. Do you enjoy life? Yes. Do you love your children? Yes. Is the sky blue? Yes. Do you enjoy a bargain? Yes. Then how could you say no to this? Yeah. It was like that. Get it? It's a game they play with you. And cops do it too. How long have you been beating your wife? It's a game with words, and he's playing it in an entirely different way than politicians in the past. He's a huckster. He's basically selling you slap chop is what he's doing. And he's doing it in a way with punchy endings, and he'll even sacrifice good grammar just to make sure that that word that he has at the end, that one syllable word, is boom right there. A two syllable word, boom, 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 right there to hit you in the head, right? So he is the modern day carpetbagger. He's the fast talker that comes into your town, starts selling the snake oil, and that is definitely the Lonesome Rhodes character. And I think that if you express this to my hillbilly family back in Ohio and Pennsylvania and Indiana and Illinois, right? And all these places, West Virginia, that my family's from, I think that you can get them to see that this is another version of the fast talking guy from, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Except this guy is not nice. This guy is not nice. He's more like the giant that'll bash you over the head for your bundle of money and leave you dead in the field. Okay? He'll talk you into going out there to have a picnic and then whack you over the head with a branch is what's going to happen. Okay? So I just thought this was a fascinating look at his technique, right? And I think it's important to look at language because the government's always trying to turn language on us. and, parse words and impress you with certain sentences. Medical marijuana is a joke. This kind of thing coming out of the DA. That's why we have to refute those statements and hold them to that and not just let it slip by. And I mean every fucking ip, ap, and that comes out of their fucking mouth. You got to analyze it and figure out what they're really trying to say, because them bitches will come back. Oh, by medical marijuana, we meant CBD and hemp. We still didn't mean marijuana. See, we still win. Oh no, you're not going to get away with that. Okay. So I just thought it was so interesting. And honestly, Andy Griffith was an amazing actor who got pissed away into a shitty part on the Andy Griffith show, and he could have had an amazing career in Hollywood, except he looked like a fucking hillbilly, so he couldn't actually ever have a real career. And it's a real bummer, because if you look at some of his early work, and like even his comedy album where he's making fun of football, it's fucking hilarious. He was actually very talented. And it's just sad that the only thing this poor guy's remembered for is the Andy Griffith show. Very cool show. He was a much better actor than that. Okay, on to the next thing that's actually marijuana related. And this is a heads up about an amazing PSA that I am not going to show you because I don't want to detract from this person's work. Okay, so I want you to go there. I'll give you the link at the bottom in the box that they put behind, underneath our severed heads, right? So down there, I always try to put everything that you need to see and go and look at on your own and decide if I have my head in my ass or whatever. Okay, so this is Watch New PSA urges legalized medical marijuana growth in Georgia. And it's with a veteran. It's very professionally done. Okay, so and it's Josh Littoral, U.S. Air Force veteran. Excuse me. So, and it says here at the top that at least one Georgian legislature is looking at expanding the state's restrictive medical marijuana program, according to 11 Alive News. Macon Representative Alan Peake has released a new public service announcement that aims to expand the current program to a greater number of patients. The video, which is narrated by Air Force veteran and founder of the Veterans of Cannabis organization, also calls for safe, regulated, and legal in-state cultivation of medical pot. Currently, Georgia's MedPot program only allows patients with 8 specific conditions to use low THC cannabis oil if approved by a doctor and the state. There is no in-state cultivation, meaning that legal patients have to find other ways to obtain the oil. So there's a very good, and this is from High Times Magazine, and it was posted January 5th, so that's today. So it's new. It's a very nice, sleek looking video. Well done. Professional. The money showed up. Okay. Next story. I take this story a totally different way than many of the people probably back east that read this story. I see this as, oh, you think this is something? Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. California Drug Enforcement caught with marijuana in Pennsylvania. Not just marijuana. Not just marijuana, not just like a couple of fucking things of marijuana, but like 2 million marijuana arrests in Pennsylvania last week. $2 million marijuana arrests in Pennsylvania last week. So they go, oh yeah, California Drug Enforcement caught with marijuana in Pennsylvania, right? But they don't say $2 million worth of marijuana, do they? And if you think that's something, just wait, kids. Wait till we legalize and your idiot state has prohibition and we run railroad tracks over you. We turn your state into a pipeline, not on purpose, because you're an idiot. Nobody's going to be like, oh, let's have a law enforcement dude go and sell $2 million of marijuana in another state. No, you're doing that. Even with these localities here in California that are banning dispensaries, that's like a map for black marketeers to go, let's see, where could I make the most money? Maybe I'll come here to Ventura County. They seem to be very restrictive. And San Diego, I can make a lot of money there. Oh my goodness, look at all this opportunity. They even provide me with the localities that I can move my operation into. Because I'm, smart and they're dumb, right? You certainly are making yourself stupider than somebody that wants to come and take advantage of that situation, like the black market. See, it's like it almost seems like Ventura and other places in California want to keep the black market going, and you have to think it must be because of money. There can't be any other reason that would make sense, except for they can continue their bus. They can make excuses to continue their bus. And then go, well, why didn't you go outside of town and buy it? Or, whatever. Okay, a deputy sheriff who works for an anti-narcotics task force in Northern California found himself swept up in a $2 million marijuana arrest in Pennsylvania last week. The authorities are now trying to determine if any of the cases he worked on have been tainted. Oh, you think maybe? Huh? Could be. I don't know. Derp. Can you say derp? According to a criminal complaint, Christopher M. Heath, the deputy, and another man, Tyler Long, 31, drove across the country to deliver more than 122 packages of marijuana, each weighing a pound or more, to a person in West Manheim Township, Pennsylvania. But investigators had been tipped off, and they stopped the car early on December 29th. The pair were arrested along with a third man in the car, identified as Ryan J. Falsoon, 27. In addition to the marijuana and $11,000 in cash, the authorities found Deputy Heath's badge and his off-duty firearm. I wonder if anybody's been murdered with that firearm. Interesting. According to Tom Kearney, the York County District Attorney, the Pennsylvania officer did not know before the arrest that Deputy Heath, 37, worked in law enforcement, he said. Oh, would that have made a difference? Let me read that again. Let's just read that again so we know what's going on here. In addition to the marijuana and $11,000 in cash, they found Deputy Heath's badge. According to Tom Kearney, the York County District Attorney, the Pennsylvania officers did not know before the arrest that Deputy Heath, 37, worked in law enforcement. Doesn't that kind of imply that somehow that would have made a difference? Interesting. Words are so interesting. Details about the drug bust, were announced by Mr. Kearney on Monday and reported in local newspapers. One has to be both saddened and angry when you hear of something like this, Mr. Kearney said, according to the Evening Sun and Hanover. Oh, really? Yes, but if you had known he was a police officer, would anyone be saddened or angered? Because it sounds like you wouldn't have busted him if you knew that. The work that is done by the task force and police officers in general is very dangerous work, and it is made more dangerous by the fact that occasionally there is a bad apple in the barrel. Occasionally. $2 million is going to make a hell of a lot of bad apples, not just in our barrel, son, but Pennsylvania's barrel, too. The three men were arrested on felony drug charges and each posted $1 million bail, the newspaper reported. None of this would be happening if you had legal marijuana, but we're not too smart up in Pennsylvania now, are we? We're going to invite black marketeers, including armed police officers, to come up here, and then we're going to bullshit about how they're just a lone bad apple, a lone wolf, a lone actor. Oh, you guys are, you know what's going to happen. This is what I think is happening. Okay, you cut off their money. You cut off their seizure money, right? The DEA no longer is having equitable sharing with local police officers that used to make bank off of this stuff by busting people or just suspecting that they had involvement with drug dealing and then taking their money, their property, their wife, their firstborn child, whatever the fuck it is. Okay, and it's all okay. So these guys have been making tons of money. Their stomachs are large. They're very large stomachs. And you just put them on a diet. Well, guess what they're going to do now? Guess where they're going to turn? Oh, I bet you this isn't the first drug enforcement officer that you're going to hear about involved in this sort of thing, because you just cut off their mainstream of financial, satisfaction, fulfillment. They can't chase the cash anymore, so they're going to chase it somewhere else. And they're armed. I don't like bringing this up, but we did have this one officer, I think his name was Dornan, and he kind of went psycho and blew up. And then all the police officers in California lost their minds and started shooting at every black truck they saw. And then finally they found the guy. And that was one lone wolf. Just one bad apple. I wonder how many more are out there that are about to go sour, that are about to go past their expiration date. Things are about to get real for law enforcement. The hand that feeds you is attached to the mouth that bites. This is going to be interesting. Yuba County is north of Sacramento, and marijuana growing has been a hot political issue. Early in 2015, the County Board of Supervisors put limits on cultivation over substantial protests from some residents and support from others opposed to criminality around the drug business. As part of the Yuba County Sheriff's Department, Deputy Heath has worked on a task force known as Net 5, which targets illegal drug use, possession, manufacturing, and sale. At least in this state, the Appeal Democrat newspaper quoted the unit's commander, Morton Horan, as saying that the deputy had led 62 criminal cases related to marijuana. The district attorney in Yuba County said he is now reviewing them to determine if the cases were still viable. Deputy Heath worked on the task force for 3 years, investigating crimes and serving as a witness, including in at least one major federal case. And all of that is now at jeopardy. The paper reported that the deputy had been placed on leave, but would continue to receive his salary during administrative investigation. Oh, so he's still getting paid. Talk about insult to injury. Oh, that's good. Okay, that was a good one. I knew that was going to be good because you could see it blowing up on Google News when you search marijuana in the news on Google. You can see things like you put it into the last 24 hours. You can see things blow up. The numbers start piling up. There's 47 news articles linking to this. Now there's 87. Now there's 107. It's very interesting watching how all this stuff happens. Okay, the next one is the best one of all. And right here, if I could, I would insert the Queen song, Princes of the Universe, from Highlander, because there can only be one. And now there is. Okay? This is from LA Weekly. Pot legalization effort now down to one major initiative. Well, here we are, princes of the universe. In other words, everyone is going to line up behind the one true king. And now some shit's gonna get real. So let's take a look at this wonderful story that proves that bullshit walks and money talks. Sean Parker. And then there was one. That's the way things look anyway. Multiple marijuana legalization efforts were competing to get on the 2016 ballot in California. Two of them appeared to have the backing of more importantly the money to make it. But that wasn't such a good thing for the cannabis community. The last time California had a chance to legalize recreational weed in 2010, the measure did not pass by a relatively close margin. Two initiatives trying to do the same thing could dilute support and ensure defeat. Legalization backers set out from the beginning to unify behind one initiative for 2016, but it didn't turn out that way. Reform California represented a coalition of legalization supporters and came out of the gate with the most well organized effort. But last month, a majority of its board members voted to suspend the Reform California's own initiative. It was reported that the group endorsed the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, a legalization effort endorsed by Silicon Valley billionaire Sean Parker and California Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, after its drafters inserted language to appease the Reform California majority. Now let's stop here so I can tell you what actually happened. Now, Reform California would be glad to still be against this initiative, but the truth is that Reform California had all the support and no money. And then the initiative that they put forth gave you 100 feet of growing space, which sounds wonderful, okay? But you're not going to be able to get these sad sack SOBs that are banning dispensaries all over California, even though medical marijuana has been proven to be effective. They are so up their ass with their prohibition that you are like Toasted Gentleman was showing off a cartoon, which I'll try to link to that too if I can remember. But he was showing off a cartoon about if you don't convince them that somehow they're going to make bank in this, they're not in. If you just tell them it's for the good of the people, forget about it. You're baked. Nobody apparently moves in government for things like that. So what you have to do is you have to convince them that there's an opportunity for them to make money, and then they cash in, you know. So basically, it's, I think, the same idea behind pushing hemp CBD in all of these areas is that even though that is not what we want, it's ridiculous, eventually it will it's the trigger that will trip the trap, because marijuana and hemp are not exclusive. These are not separate plants. Scientifically, they are the exact same plant. It's just that this is a cousin of that one. So when you have to prove that marijuana is medical, it don't matter which one you prove is medical. They're both the same plant. You lose. Okay? So they're going to try to, as a matter of fact, I'm predicting right now that the federal government is going to change the goalpost. I'm going to say this right now. This is my prediction. Oh, I need a hat for this. Oh, I'm looking out into the future. And I predict that the Surgeon General will recommend that drug scheduling must be changed because we fucking drank their milkshake and now they must move the goalposts in order to win. Because we proved that marijuana was medical. And that was the point underneath this restriction. And that's why I think the Surgeon General is examining all of our drug laws, is because they're going to move the goalposts. They're not going to do it because they like us or they're wrong. They're going to try to still win in this feeble, hobbling, crippled way. So I think it's good news, but it's not the kind of news that we were hoping for. It's not rescheduling like justice. No, they're going to try to change the scheduling around, it looks like, so that it works out for them, so that they can still say, oh, yes, it's medical, but only this part of this particular that we have control of and you don't. And see what I'm saying? It's going to become Cain and Abel, and we're all going to get kicked out of paradise. You know, no, it's going to become Cain and Abel. They're going to fight for God's love, which is the federal government, THC and CBD. One's going to murder the other. And then next thing you know, there's nobody for God's love anymore. Everybody's fucking kicked out of paradise, you know. So what they're trying to do is turn one against the other, and they're all the same. So to all of the Kentucky and all these places that are considering hemp and CBD instead of marijuana, here's my warning. Sure, go ahead, invest in that. But they'll be able to use this caveat against you anytime they want to. And an injury to one is an injury to all. So if you do not help protect our stance, you will be defenseless in your own against the federal government, and they'll be able to raid you anytime that they find any trace of anything in your plants that they don't like. You want regulation that's free and clean, you have to support us. Otherwise, you're going to be compromising till the cows come home. So that's just a little caveat about what the difference between Reform California is and the new initiative. Reform California reached for the moon, the stars, and heaven, and Gavin Newsom was not going to get behind that because it didn't line up with the regulations for medical marijuana that they just okayed. This is what got you in trouble last time. This is what got you in trouble last time. Okay. Let's see. Onwards and upwards. But Dale Sky Jones, chair of the board Reform California parent organization, said the group had yet to get behind the Parker Initiative, known by its crinonym as AUMA. Okay, I'm not going to call it AUMA. I'm going to call it legalizing marijuana. That's what it's going to be called. Okay, this is just a particular bill, but it's basically called legalizing marijuana in California. That's what it's going to be called. Okay, we have not joined forces with Parker's group, she said. Stay tuned. Likewise, the grandfather of California pro-pot group NORML has yet to back AUMA, but organizations Reform California and NORML indicate that the language proposed for the initiative hasn't gone far enough to ensure pot smokers' liberties. In other words, they're still, that's negotiation. That's what that is. We're going to hold out till you do exactly what we want. Teachers, unions, and classified employees go through this all the time. Teachers, unions, and classified employees in our district tend to negotiate at the same table or, under the same time, together for their contracts. But as soon as the teachers get what they want, they give in and we're left on our own. This is classic. This happens all the time. The teachers are like, we're with you. Oh, we got what we wanted. See you later. And we're like, hey. So the classic negotiation. I don't blame them for doing this. It's a smart thing to do because they can continue to try to work for more freedoms, which are obviously going to be what's coming. It's like looking at Bernie Sanders. You may not think Bernie Sanders' idea of the future of politics or government is going to work, but I'm telling you, that's the future of politics. Look at him. He literally stole the act from Ron Paul. And now he's on the road. Socialism. I'm telling you, this is a future for America. And there's just, so centralized government has completely failed. And we're not going to end up in the dark ages. It's going to be different this time. Okay, so it's called AUMA. I'm not going to call it that, okay? So they are not happy with protections for pot smokers. The general idea is that AUMA, if approved, would tax and regulate marijuana alcohol style, while allowing adults 21 and older to possess 1 ounce of cannabis without fear of being handcuffed. AUMA contains a number of legal glitches and inconsistencies that will have to be fixed by the courts, California NORML said in a statement. That's perfectly normal too. It also contains a number of complications and restrictions that users accustomed to the looser framework of Prop 215 may find objectionable. Well, 215 is as it stands, and nothing can touch it. So whether they find this shit objectionable or fucking not, there is nothing the legislation can do to change what we voted for in Prop 215. So that is bullshit right the fuck there. Anything that changes to Prop 215 can be taken to court and beaten to death. It's 60% legalization, said Ellen Komp, Deputy Director of California NORML. We haven't endorsed it yet. That's okay. You don't have to. You just said it's 60%. That's all we needed. We're going to fight for 100. You're not going to get that. Well, this is only 60%. Oh, that sounds good enough to me as a voter. Thank you, Normal, for your input. Yeah. Basically, you just said it's 60% legalization. That kind of totally undermines your argument. I just call it a softer, gentler prohibition. Yeah, too bad. That's what regulation is, okay? We're not going to all run free naked into the woods, all right? We're going to start at this point. This is pretty fucking good. I know you're crying. Keep fighting. Good for you. You should fight for 100%, freedom for stoners. You're not going to get it. And that's not what I'm going to vote for, because neither are all these other rubes going to vote for that. That's very nice. You're not going to hook me as a stoner with that. We need 100. No, we don't. We need to win is what we need to do. We need to win. Still, the suspicion of Reform California's own effort means essentially there is one initiative that appears to have the cash and organization to make it to the ballot in 2016. Jones said Reform California could have come up with 2 to 3 million it takes to gather enough signatures to make it to the ballot, but then there are millions of dollars more needed for the campaign, particularly if it's is serious if there is serious opposition. Shh. In other words, what's going to happen is that the police unions and stuff will throw up opposition because we've already seen that they make money off of this, right? I mean, look at all these different places in California that's banning marijuana. Why are they doing that? To continue to institutionalize money flow and keeping poor people and poor communities and people of color under control. Okay, so I'm going to do something about him. I still can't catch him. He's just flying. I'm like, go in the bedroom. Okay. For some reason, it keeps telling me that I have no sound. I had to change my mic because for some reason it kept telling me I didn't have sound. I'm like, okay, fine. I have... What? Hair everywhere. Okay, let's see if it'll keep recording. It's been cutting me off and saying, no sound. Could be the cables. Because I was trying to catch the bird. Well, it's still going, so it says sound now. Okay. Back to my story. Chocolate chip cookie. Still, the suspension of Reform California's own effort mean essentially there is no initiative that appears to have the cash and organization to make it to the ballot in 2016. Jones said Reform California could have come up with the money to get the signatures, but they couldn't have come up with the money to campaign against the opposition, which means commercials and stuff like that. Comp and Jones noted that the cash pledge for AUMA hasn't been seen, but they didn't doubt it would show. Sean Parker is not going to allow all this coverage of him to go around and then suddenly pull out and have every pot smoker in the world hate his guts. Facebook is kind of a hotbed for marijuana revolution, if you haven't noticed, and he is one of the originators of Facebook. All right. Several grassroots efforts to legalize pot are aiming for the ballot too, but given the economics of making it to November, few experts give them much of a chance. So having one major well-funded legalization initiative on the ballot isn't such a bad thing for the pro-pot contingent, even if it doesn't reflect all of its wants and needs. The California Attorney General's office says such an initiative could reap nearly $1 billion in tax benefits. Jones says pulling back on the Reform California effort was about trying to avoid mutually assured destruction. Somebody gave in. Good for them. They're the bigger man. To be honest with you, well done, Reform California. To give in means that you do give a shit about this issue. Plus, they probably didn't have a choice. But still, you give a shit about this issue. Having two different two different initiatives on the ballot would have appeased factions to the detriment of ultimately winning in 2016. So in other words, to appease people that want 100% legalization, they want marijuana to grow wild and free in every yard and every child to be, this kind of thing. No. But keep fighting for that, because when you reach for that, we get way more than if we had just reached for, could you please just leave us alone, So good for you. That's exactly what we need. You need two things. You need the guys on the inside trying to push with government, saying, oh, we're not as difficult to work with as some of these radicals out here that we're also affiliated with. They're actually angry with us that we're here talking to you. You would much rather deal with us. But you need that bad stoner, good stoner kind of thing going on. You need the voice in the wilderness. I want everything. And that's me, right? And then you need the people that are working with at a government level, and they're more subdued and more, pragmatic and more, political in their speech and stuff like that. And they're like, well, we have all these people screaming and yelling, and they're pushing us to do this. And we're so much more, calm and rational, and we could speak to you. And don't you want to deal with us instead of them? So that's our job, is to be the rabble screaming and yelling and clawing at the gates of Rome. We're going to burn the place to the ground. Rome will start cutting deals, trust me. Okay. So that was all of my stories for today. I don't have much exciting for you, except for the fact that marijuana legalization is moving very nicely forward in California. I'm very happy with what's going on. And the hilarious story about drug law enforcement that had been working 62 cases in California. Now those cases look like they're out the window. Got busted trying to go, unload $2 million worth of weed in a blue law state. That's hilarious. That's hilarious to me. You think that's something? Keep it up. Wait till we legalize. Then the pain's really going to hurt. You're going to have to, oh my God, we're going to make you spend so much money. Not on purpose. Not because California is like, oh, we're going to pump our marijuana into your state. No, because you have prohibition. Because you're stupid. Because you're creating opportunity for people that are crooked, like this police officer. So I'll let you go now. And I'll see about trying to maybe scrape up some ducats to get, an eighth or something for the rest of the week, especially if it's going to be nice and rainy like this. And I hope you're enjoying your weather wherever you are, and hopefully it's not really terrible, because I know some places are really getting hit bad by this El Nino, and some places are hot, and they shouldn't be, and that's weird. So you take care. Watch out for El Nino. All right. Good morning, Sean. And I'll see you later. So you stay high and goodbye, and I too will try.